Okay, so have you ever had those D&D moments where you're like totally set for a stealth mission
You're right.
and then it just explodes into like complete and utter
Oh,
chaos?
yeah, definitely. I mean, just last week, actually, our group was trying to get into this cult's lair. It was underground, of course. And we had, the classic party setup, like a rogue who's basically a shadow,
Mhm.
a ranger who thinks he can blend into anything, and a cleric in full plate armor. So the rogue, like, always is amazing, disarming traps, picking locks silently. And the ranger, actually, he managed to sneak past the first few guards. There was some, like, surprisingly convenient foliage underground. And then there's the cleric.
Oh
Yeah,
no.
he rolls a natural one on his stealth check, like the worst possible thing you can get on that D20.
Oof.
And he trips over a loose stone, which like starts this mini rock slide down this narrow passageway.
You've got to be kidding me.
Yeah, so much for a quiet entrance. The alarm went off immediately. And we basically ended up in this huge chaotic brawl with like a dozen very angry cultists.
So much for stealth.
Yeah, we did eventually win the fight. But forget about surprise. Our super carefully planned entry was completely ruined. It was like frustrating, but also hilarious. Just a classic reminder that in D&D, you can never really predict what's going to happen.
It's so true though. It's like that whole idea of moving unseen through danger. It's such a powerful fantasy for players, especially the ones who love that kind of cunning strategic gameplay. Like LitRPG Reads put it really well.
Yeah.
D&D is like this ultimate playground for those who want to be heroes, villains, or something confusingly in between.
Right.
And that phrase, like, I'm going to sneak ahead, it basically sums up that player mindset.
Yeah.
But like your cleric story shows the reality is often way more,
Yeah.
chaotic and funny.
For sure. And what I find interesting is that core mechanic itself. Like you have your dexterity attribute, which obviously directly affects your stealth skill. Seems pretty straightforward, right? But when you think about it being truly proficient in stealth, it's so much more than just moving quietly.
Yeah, it's more than not stepping on a twig.
Exactly. It's like understanding how to use shadows to your advantage.
Yeah.
Timing your movements to match distractions in the environment.
Yeah.
And even reading the body language of whoever you're trying to avoid. And so it goes way beyond just getting a good roll.
That's a really good point. It's the difference between a character who's just naturally light on their feet
Yeah.
and one who really like understands the art of not being seen. And that's where the whole group dynamic comes into play, right?
Right.
You can have the most skilled rogue who can practically disappear.
Right.
But if they're with a paladin in full plate armor or a wizard who's so focused on their spells that they're not paying attention to where they're stepping, the whole group's success is going to depend on the least stealthy person.
Totally. It's like the super delicate balance. One wrong move, one little clang of metal, and suddenly everyone's cover is blown.
Mhm.
And that's where those dice rolls really matter. A natural 20 can create these amazing moments. Like the whole party just glides past a huge threat, completely unnoticed. But a natural one, like with my cleric, can turn the most clever plan into a comedy show.
It really is. Like the game has this built-in chaos factor.
Yeah.
And, as LitRPG Reads talks about, stealth in D&D isn't just about being successful all the time. It's about how you react when things inevitably go wrong.
Yeah.
It becomes a storytelling tool, creating these unforgettable moments, whether it's like a heart-stopping success or, just everyone laughing their heads off. So we've talked about moving quietly, but hiding takes it to a whole other level, right? It's not just about sound, it's about becoming invisible.
Yeah, exactly. And the sources we looked at, they make it clear hiding successfully isn't just about a good stealth check. You have to really think about your environment. Do you have cover to break that line of sight?
Yeah.
Are you using dimly lit areas to your advantage? And even the timing of when you try to hide can make a huge difference.
Yeah. And then there are those moments when players try to hide in places that are just so ridiculous. Like that rogue who tries to squeeze behind a tiny little plant, or a barbarian who thinks they can blend in with a tapestry.
Oh, I've definitely seen that. The barbarian hiding behind a houseplant. Like, come on. Right? It's like they think they're invisible if they just close their eyes. It's hilarious.
Yeah.
But it also kind of highlights this back and forth between the player's creativity and the DM's job of keeping things somewhat realistic. Like, you want to encourage those fun ideas, but you can't let a halfling in heavy armor successfully hide behind like a single blade of grass.
Exactly. It's a balancing act.
But
And it's all part of that shared storytelling. And those crazy creative failures, often they become the funniest stories from a campaign.
absolutely. Okay, so we've talked about hiding. Let's talk about sneaking now, like the actual movement.
Yeah, one of the sources calls sneaking a silent ballet, which I think is a great way to put it. It's this super delicate process where you have to think about so many things at once.
Like tiptoeing through a minefield?
Kind of.
Yeah.
Your movement speed is crucial. You need to cover ground, but the faster you move, the more noise you're likely to make. And we've already talked about armor. Like even small movements can make metal clink or leather creak. And then there's the environment itself. creaky floorboards, loose gravel echoing caverns. They can all give you away. Basically, every step matters. It's true. Every action can have consequences when you're trying to be stealthy. And that's where teamwork becomes super important. A well-coordinated party can work around some of those environmental problems, like a bard casting the silence spell to make everyone's footsteps quiet, or a druid summoning some natural cover, like a thick patch of bushes to hide the party as they move.
Yeah, but even with the best teamwork, one little mistake can ruin everything. Like someone kicks a loose stone, and suddenly everyone knows you're there.
And the sources actually give some really useful tips for getting better at sneaking, like choosing lighter armor, using the environment to your advantage by sticking to the shadows,
Mm-hmm.
and even having one character create a distraction to draw attention away from the others.
Oh yeah, like a bard charming a guard to look the other way while the rest of the party sneaks past. Classic.
And then there are the spells, like Mage Hand to move things around silently
Mm.
or cause distractions. And of course, Silence, which we already talked about. And then there's Pass Without Trace, which gives you a +10 bonus to stealth checks. It's basically like magical camouflage.
Right, it's almost like cheating.
Awesome. But the sources also make a good point about accepting failure. Not every stealth attempt is going to work. And sometimes those failures lead to the most hilarious moments.
Definitely. Like when you have to make a quick escape and it all goes wrong.
Oh, yeah. A rogue might be able to vanish back into the shadows. No problem. But imagine a paladin in full plate trying to make a quiet getaway. It's just funny to picture.
It really is. Okay, so we've covered avoiding detection, but what about using stealth to your advantage, like when you're planning an ambush?
Ambushes are all about surprise, right? Catching your enemies off guard and getting the upper hand. And to do that, you need to be smart about it. You need a good plan, good timing, and everyone has to be on the same page.
Exactly. You have to choose your location carefully, maybe somewhere with natural cover, like behind rocks or in a dark alleyway, and setting traps can be a great way to add to the surprise factor. But timing is key. You want to hit them when they're least expecting it, and to do that, everyone in the party has to be totally coordinated. You need clear communication so everyone knows their role and when to strike.
And the sources list a bunch of different ambush tactics, with suggestions for when to use each one and what to watch out for, like the classic lure and trap, or using high ground advantage for ranged attacks. And there's the pincer movement to surround your enemies, and even using magical disguise to sneak into position.
There's the Shadow Strike for Dark Dungeons. That feels like a classic rogue move. And the Silent Takedown for taking out small groups of enemies without alerting anyone else.
And the illusionary assault sounds super cool,
Yeah.
using magic to create distractions and confuse the enemy.
Oh, and if you're feeling really bold, there's the Destructive Entrance. Go in loud and make a statement.
But even with the best plan, the dice can always throw a wrench in things. One bad roll at a crucial moment, and your whole ambush could fall apart.
Yep. And that brings us back to what one of the sources called the joyful insanity of group stealth. It's so true. When you have a group of adventurers with different skills and approaches, trying to get them all to move stealthily as a unit, it can be pure chaos.
You've got the rogue moving like a ghost, and then the fighter behind them is clanking and bumping into everything.
And the DM has to somehow make sense of all that and create a story out of it. It's a challenge for sure.
The sources had this list of common group stealth fails that are just hilarious, like the rogue hiding perfectly, and then the paladin casts light.
Oops.
Or the bard who thinks be quiet means play a super quiet song on your lute.
Oh man, I remember one time our wizard tripped and scattered all their spell components everywhere, right in the middle of a dungeon.
Classic. And then there's the ranger, the one who's supposed to be an expert in the wilderness, stepping on the loudest twig in existence.
Of course. And let's not forget the bard who tries to whisper but ends up singing a whole ballad.
And the barbarian whose stomach decides to growl like a bear right when you need absolute silence.
Oh yeah, and the cleric who starts praying out loud right as you're trying to sneak past a guard.
It never fails. And of course, you can't forget about familiars, those little creatures that are supposed to be helpful.
They always seem to make noise at the worst possible time.
Right, like a screech owl hooting, right as you're trying to be stealthy. It's those moments of chaos that make the best memories.
For sure. So let's talk about magic now, because spells and magic items can have a huge impact on stealth.
Yeah, spells like invisibility and Pass Without Trace, they can totally change the game.
Uh.
And then there are magic items, like cloaks and boots of elven kind, that give you bonuses to stealth.
But magic can also backfire in hilarious ways, like your invisibility spell running out at the worst possible moment, or your cloak of elven kind suddenly becoming super visible.
Right, or the wizard who tries to cast invisibility on someone else, but accidentally turns their own clothes invisible instead.
That's a classic. But when used well, magic can be a huge asset for stealth. You can create illusions to distract enemies, use darkness to your advantage, or make a quick escape if you need to.
But the sources are right when they say that magic shouldn't replace actual skill. You can have all the fancy spells and items in the world, but if you don't know how to move quietly and use your surroundings to your advantage, you're still going to get caught.
Totally. Okay, so we've talked a lot about players using stealth, but it's important to remember that players aren't the only ones who can be sneaky.
Right. The D&D world is full of creatures and NPCs who use stealth too, so players need to be ready for that. They need to use their perception skills to spot hidden enemies, and maybe even set their own traps or create diversions to flush those enemies out.
And the sources give some good examples of creatures that are known for their stealth, like goblins who love to ambush people from unexpected places, doppelgangers who can perfectly mimic other creatures, and bugbears who are really good at surprise attacks.
And then there are creatures like shadows who can literally blend into darkness, invisible stalkers who are, as the name suggests, invisible, and assassins who are masters of stealth and poison.
There are even creatures that can disguise themselves as objects, like mimics. They're super dangerous.
And it's not just about combat encounters. There are creatures like darklings who can blind you with light-faced spiders who can teleport, and Yuan-Ti purebloods who can blend in with humanoids. They can all cause problems in different ways.
And knowing how to deal with those different creatures is important. You can use your own stealth against them, exploit their weaknesses, or just be aware of their tricks.
So stealth isn't just a player thing. It's a part of the whole D&D world. And the environment plays a big role too. Different environments create different challenges and opportunities for being stealthy.
Right, like in a dungeon you have to worry about echoes and traps.
Mm.
Forests have lots of cover, but also lots of things to make noise with. In cities you have to blend in with crowds. And underwater everything is muffled and it's hard to see.
And the sources have tips for stealth in different environments. Like in dungeons, stick to the shadows and move carefully. In forests, use natural cover and watch where you step. In cities, blend in and use the city noises to your advantage.
And then there are the more unusual environments, like underwater where even small movements can be detected, mountains where you can accidentally trigger a rock slide, and deserts where there's not much cover at all. You have to adapt your strategy to the environment.
And our sources talk about something really important about stealth, that it's not just about mechanics, it's also about roleplay. It's about bringing your character to life and making those stealth moments really memorable.
Exactly. Even if you're playing a flashy character, you can still have fun with stealth.
Totally. And when you really get into the role play, it turns those skill checks into stories. You can describe your movements, add little sound effects, imagine what your character is thinking. You can even come up with a little stealth motto that your character repeats to themselves.
Oh, and you can role-play little arguments with your party members about who's making too much noise, or try to disguise your voice if you need to talk to someone, or use hand signals to communicate silently.
And you can even describe how your character is feeling, like the tension of trying not to be seen, or their confidence in their skills.
And if your character is religious, they could whisper a prayer for guidance or protection. It all adds to the experience.
Right, it makes it more immersive. And as the sources say, it turns those dice rolls into actual stories. So to wrap up our stealth deep dive, the sources also give some really cool D&D plot hooks that are all about stealth. They're great starting points for adventures that let players really use their sneaking skills.
Oh yeah, these sound fun. There's the stolen artifact. It's like a classic heist story. The party has to steal a magical item from a fancy event.
Sounds intense.
Right. There are opportunities for social interactions, sneaking around, and maybe even some twists, like what if the artifact is sentient or protected by magic?
Then there's the Great Escape, where the party is imprisoned and has to break out.
Yeah.
It's all about planning avoiding guards and the thrill of almost getting caught.
And there are role-playing opportunities, too, like interacting with other prisoners, finding secret escape routes, and making tough choices.
Whispers in the Dark sounds cool, too. The party has to infiltrate a secret meeting and uncover a plot. It's all about disguises, eavesdropping, and the risk of being discovered.
Oh, and the shadows beneath. That one's about exploring ancient ruins with secret tunnels and hidden dangers.
It sounds perfect for combining exploration with stealth encounters, and maybe even some puzzles or riddles to solve.
The masquerade heist is another good one. It's about stealing something from a masquerade ball. But there are other thieves there, too. So you have to figure out who to trust and who to trick.
That sounds like it could get really complicated.
Right. And the last one is beneath the surface. The party has to investigate strange happenings in the water. It could be a monster or a secret cult. And it all takes place underwater, which makes stealth even harder.
These plot hooks are all so different, but they show how versatile stealth can be in D&D. It's not just about avoiding combat, it's about solving problems, being creative, and having fun,
Absolutely.
right?
So to sum it all up, stealth in D&D is this awesome blend of strategy, creativity, and just plain silliness. It's about those moments of silent victory and those times when everything goes hilariously wrong.
And often it's those hilarious failures that we remember the most.
Definitely. So we want to encourage you, our listeners, to embrace the sneaky side of D&D. Don't be afraid to get creative with your stealth plans. And don't worry if things don't always go according to plan. That's part of the fun.
And a big thank you to LitRPG Reads for their insights on D&D stealth. And to Paul Bello on Twitter for always sharing interesting D&D stuff.
We want to hear from you too. What are your most memorable D&D stealth stories? The amazing successes, the epic fails. Tell us everything. Share your stories and your thoughts in the comments below.
We can't wait to hear them.